Hi, everyone. Co-host Peter Cook here. I'd Buy That for $1 will be on break until October 2026, when we will hit you with Season 8. In the meantime, we will follow our tradition of airing rewinds of classic episodes every other week leading up to October. But first, we're unlocking our latest Patreon episode. If you like what you hear, you can head on over to patreon.com/I'd Buy That podcast to sign up, help support the program, and get great bonus content like this in return. This one is a 10-inch called Rail Dynamics, featuring, you guessed it, train sounds. So once again, if you like what you hear, head on over to patreon.com/I'd Buy That podcast. We hope you enjoy, and we'll see you in October. I'm guessing you're not going to play the full sides of the train sounds.
No, we can just do the first 2 minutes of each side.
It's that would be basically the whole length of what we aim to go for. Would just be the record.
Choo-choo.
30 minutes.
And just be like, those are some train sounds, huh? And you go, yep. And then we end.
That's, I mean,
Actually,
that'll be an easy...
Yeah, we've recorded the episode now. We're done.
Welcome to I'd Buy That for $1, a podcast about inexpensive, common, and underappreciated records that are waiting to be rediscovered. I'm your host, Sean Hartman, producer of the new compilation album, Now That's What I Call a Turntable Full of Sound Effects, Announcements, and Horrifying Background Moods for the Making of Seductive Soap Operas in the Home, Volume 2.
Short and sweet title.
Yeah, you didn't run that by the marketing department, did you?
I am the marketing department.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm co-host Jeremy, and choo-choo, motherfucker.
Yeah, choo-choo. Choo-choo to you.
This is premium content, so I can say cusses.
Wow. That felt liberating, didn't it, Jeremy?
It did. It wasn't even like an accident or like I pull it back before the swear. I just let it go.
Well, I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
I am co-host Peter Cook, and guess what, guys? I've started another label.
Nice. Congrats.
You know, this one is very personal. Some of those other ones were for, limited release projects of others, but this is very personal. It's intended to showcase my love for recorded sound and its effect on the listener, and how much the ability to reproduce sound has changed the world. We're going big with the concept behind this one. There will be some revolutionary concepts in how recordings are distributed. It's going to be a game changer. And so, since it's so personal to me, the label is Cook Records.
Let the man cook.
Indeed. Someone's in the kitchen with Peter Cook.
Is it Sean and his new compilation?
Yeah, I think we're going to release that compilation on this label, Sean.
Okay. Yeah, I feel this energy.
Perfect.
Wow, we're creating synergies. And what else are we doing today, fellas?
Pretty much our standard Patreon episode.
45.
Talking about a 10-inch train sounds album.
Oh my.
It's like a big single. It's like a small LP.
Singles have pop appeal, Sean.
Mm-hmm. You don't think these train sounds are going to go all the way to the top?
I hope they do.
Well, yeah, I think it's been, 60 plus years since they were recorded, and they have yet to do so.
You never know with TikTok.
It could come back.
Well, what is it, Sean? Tell us.
We are listening to the 10-inch album Rail Dynamics, recorded by Emory Cook in 1950, released in 1952. So this is an old one for us. This is one of our oldest featured albums.
Yeah, I said 60 plus. We're talking 70 plus, actually.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Well, hit us with the hits, Sean.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just play a couple minutes of side A story in sound.
Yeah, it would be impractical to play these entire sides as they're 15 plus minutes, right?
Correct. And I think you'll get the picture pretty quickly here.
Now, if our listeners didn't quite get enough of that train sound, how would they hear the rest of this track, Sean Dad?
Oh, interesting you should ask. Well, I actually featured all of side B of this album on a recent episode of Deep Zones, my monthly internet radio show. You can hear the archived episode. That's May 2026. That's on the Great Circles SoundCloud page.
Fantastic music for taking a bath to.
Yes, one of its many purposes.
This is for our heads, our Patreon followers who just can't get enough of us even here. You can go, we're plugging our other projects for you now on the Patreon.
Correct. You won't hear me talk on that one, though. So if you like what we do, you just don't like the sound of our voice for some reason, here's an alternative for you.
Yeah, I don't talk on 100% Weird on Mixcloud either, so...
You got to give the people a break, you know? Show the many sides of Peter Cook and Sean Hartman.
Yeah, they've had hundreds of hours of us talking at this point.
Yeah, enough is enough.
But we should finish this episode first.
Okay. So yeah, what do you guys think about train sounds? What do you think about sound effects records? Do you own any sound effects records or non-music albums?
I have a few. I don't have this one, but I do have a few sound effects and non-music records. I wish I had more because they're great for sampling and mixing together to make new you can make a new creation out of them, often with little legal consequences depending.
Yeah, I own like maybe two that I got right when I started collecting records and was like, oh, this is interesting. And The way I utilize records, which is like when I'm sitting around in my living room, I don't really have a use because I'm not a DJ.
Right. Yeah. I bought a handful of different oddities, non-music records like that a long time ago, just thinking like, wow, these are cheap and these are interesting and I'm kind of fascinated, but didn't have a use for them for a very long time. And I think one of the times I first started really using some of my sound effects records and field recordings was when we were doing the series of live scores at the Alamo Draft House in Kalamazoo. And for one or two of the movies, instead of playing guitar and saxophone and other instruments, I set up my turntables and was just doing a lot of like turntable manipulation of field recording sounds, engine sounds slowed down or played back and forth and looped, etc. And it was a lot of fun to work in that medium and just manipulate recorded sound that way.
Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like the sound effects records are something that like you talk to certain people and they're just all in on them. Like people that utilize sound effects for what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, and now I love them and use them very frequently for deep zones because they're great for just layering underneath other sounds, especially when you're playing extended kind of meditative or more abstract music, throwing some trains underneath or some waves, some bird sounds. It's a lot of fun to mess around with.
Yeah, well, this is these records were in a sense in a pre ASMR world that they were coming out, but I think some people were utilizing them as listeners that way.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated to think about like how often did these records get used when they initially came out? Were people in similar to us just buying them because it seemed cool and then it sat on the shelf and was never actually used? Like were people just using it to show how impressive their hi-fi setup was? Maybe they were reading to these sounds as kind of a pleasant background noise. I don't know.
Well, what do you know as far as this release goes?
Yeah, this one was a fun one to research. The guy behind it was a pretty fascinating dude. I compiled some interesting info, so let's get into it. The guy behind this record and this label, his name is Emory Cook.
What is the label that this one specifically is on?
This is the Cook record label, and this is part of the Sounds of Our Times series. It was sort of a sub label of Cook Records.
Yeah, well, damn it, he beat me to Cook Records,
Darn.
and it seems like the concept behind it was he also beat me to.
Yeah, by just a few decades.
Yeah. Yeah, there was like a Cook Laboratories imprint of it. He went hard.
The laboratories was like his factory basically. It's where he like produced audio equipment and pressed records and later did record duplication and cassette duplication. And yeah,
Okay.
laboratories was first and the label followed shortly after. But let's start at the beginning. Emory Cook was born January 27th, 1913 in Albany, New York. He was a audio engineer, field recordist, high fidelity pioneer, and inventor. He started his professional career, graduated from Cornell with an electrical engineering degree, and was working in the technical field. I think he was doing work with radar. And then during World War II, he became fascinated with the emerging world of audio recordings and the advancements that were happening at the time. And by the late 1940s, he decided to devote himself full time to that, which is when he founded Cook Laboratories as initially a business building professional audio equipment. And one of the first major things he built in 1949, he debuted a new disc cutting head that both reduced noise in the cutting process and featured an extended range of 20,000 hertz. So a larger range that could get pressed onto vinyl and quieter than had ever been done before. Quite popular invention amongst the audio nerds of the day. And he was able to launch Cook Records in 1950, mostly as a means to showcase these new inventions and advancements in audio engineering.
So for him, it was definitely to show off his setup.
Yeah, his capabilities, but I think he was also genuinely fascinated with sound in general, and also with calypso music. He
Oh,
was a big fan of music happening in the Caribbean, and a lot of the stuff that came out on Cook Records is actually some early steel drum and calypso recordings.
hmm. Did it say why?
He just had a fascination with the area. He traveled there a lot and later had a factory set up in Trinidad and was just drawn to that music. But Cook Records released a pretty wide variety of sounds and styles. You had the field recording stuff, you had trains, storms, wildlife, even a burlesque show. He did folk music, percussion based music, organ, classical, spoken word, and yeah, a lot of calypso and steel drum.
He's basically just repping the things he liked.
Yeah, he was a man that followed his passions for sure.
It's very DIY.
Yeah. So his work in field recordings actually predated two guys that we've talked about previously on the podcast with similar interests, being Brad Miller with Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab and Irv Tybel with the Environment series. Both those guys kind of were influenced by Emory Cook. He was doing it first.
One of those guys was a train guy too, right? Am I remembering that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Brad Miller did a handful of hi fi train sounds records that are sought after at this point. We discussed him on the Mystic Moods Orchestra episode.
I think there's something about trains in particular. They're non-musical, but they have a very rhythmic quality to them. So I think that's why you often get that crossover with people into music and recorded sound and a fascination with trains.
Yeah. There's always groups of people that are just fascinated by trains in general, but there's a certain kind of hypnotic magic to train sounds records, especially this one, I think. Because this one mixes the train sounds and you get some like footsteps in the background, some distant conversations. You can hear the sounds of rain outside in the trains. You get a variety of sounds, both recorded on moving trains or recorded on tracks next to the train. And he does an interesting job of kind of splicing different recordings together to create sort of a story and sound, if you will.
Yeah, they're very well captured, the train sounds, almost to the extent that I could see one listening and wondering if they were authentic or not. Which is a weird thing to say, but for the time period, they sound so good that you have to question, like, how did he capture this so well?
Yeah, and for the time period, he was really blowing people's minds with this stuff. This was unlike anything other people were able to capture at that point. Again, we're talking early 50s here. Like he was pioneering to the extreme.
I heard that he when he got this train record pressed, he played it on his hi-fi as loud as it could go, and then got a phone call from the realtor in the area saying, "Don't do that again. I just got a call from someone who just bought a house next to you, complaining that I never told them that this house was right by the train tracks."
That's amazing.
The neighbor thought there was a real train coming by their house.
Yeah, super authentic. That's funny.
At least that's part of the legend anyway.
Yeah, and I think there's an interesting contrast to his approach to a guy like Irv Tybel. When we talked about him, like he was obsessed with getting these sounds that were free of human interference to the point where he was, chopping up tiny bits of recordings to splice together things that had no human sounds. Whereas Emory was just kind of documenting the sounds around him. Sometimes he was going for rare sounds, traveling to remote locations to get stuff that really had not been recorded before. And sometimes he was just recording very common stuff that he found interesting. And at this point, a lot of it acts as a fascinating time capsule. A lot of the stuff he recorded just doesn't exist. Some of these steam trains, and he did recordings of like early organs that don't exist anymore or carousels. And yeah, it's really interesting to listen to. You can really kind of close your eyes and be transported with this stuff. So a couple more things. Early stereo recordings often focused on giving the impression of a sound traveling from one ear to the other, kind of a left to right kind of thing. Whereas Emory was more focused on creating a three-dimensional immersive experience. For example, his trains sounds would either be recorded with microphones on either side of a moving train to pick up subtle differences and make you feel as if you were riding on the train, or with microphones on either side of the tracks, giving the impression that the train is running over you.
Ooh,
Hmm.
creepy.
Yeah. And this was being done way before we had stereo sound. So in 1952, the same year this album came out, Emery invented an early version of stereo that he called binaural sound. He did this by inventing a new tone arm that had two needles on it, two different cartridges, and then he produced special records with two sets of mono grooves, one that starts at the end and one that starts in the middle. And his unique tone arm would play both of those grooves at the same time to give you a sort of stereo effect.
Huh. And the rest is
Yeah.
history.
Yeah. And he also was obsessed with making this stuff available to as many people as possible. So like he was producing this stuff by himself and doing it as low a cost as possible so that anyone interested in high fidelity sound could get one, not just the ultra rich. And that was a full 5 years before stereo records. We started getting the first single track stereo records in 1957.
Yeah, he was really ahead of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another big thing he did in 1955, he developed a new way to press records that he called microfusion, where he would make metal stamps with the record grooves, and then he would fill them with a sort of vinyl powder. The vinyl would then get melted and pressed into the record. And his intent with this was to allow record shops or individuals to press their own small run albums. They would send the master tapes to him, and then he would manufacture the molds at his factory, send it back to them, and they could press as many records as they want just buying the vinyl powder from him.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting, like the idea of basically like stores being able to supply the demand for a release than having to order more copies. Is that sort of the idea behind that? Like they could press it up?
Yeah, yep. And this is also where you get a lot of the Cook records related Caribbean music because the area where he was primarily implementing this idea was in Puerto Rico and Trinidad. There were many stores there in the 50s that had these Emery Cook manufactured microfusion record stamps. So yeah, they were able to get recordings from the local musicians in whatever town the record store was in and then get the molds pressed with Emery and then release these local band albums, which, you know, it's kind of rare to see that nowadays. So to be able to have a record store do that without having to go through a major label or anything, I'm sure was like incredible,
Mhm.
especially in those areas of the world at that time.
Yeah, well, there was nowadays DIY is a lot more in you can accomplish a lot more with a DIY ethos nowadays than you most people could 50, 60, 70 years ago. That kind of technology was often very much in the hands of the people with the power, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. Not much of a DIY record scene at that time.
No. Oh, it's really fascinating.
So yeah, Emery retired in the 80s and then donated his entire sound archive from Cook Records to the Smithsonian in 1990. So you can hear clips of most of the stuff on Cook Records at the Smithsonian website, and you can purchase digital or physical copies from them.
Can you get microfusion copies?
You can get used ones on Discogs.
Good enough.
Yeah.
Well, should we play side B?
Yeah. Let's hear some more of those train sounds. Side B is called A Recitation of Sounds Recorded Along the Right of Way of a Great Railroad. And the note on the cover says recorded on rainy nights along the tracks of the New York Central.
Yeah, I really love the way they hype this up.
Yeah. a lot of great album titles and track titles, including the one that I used in my intro. One of his track titles was A Turntable Full of Sounds, Effects, Announcements, and Horrifying Background Moods for the Making of Seductive Soap Operas in the Home.
Oh. For some reason, I just assumed you made that, but no.
Nope, that's a Emory Cook original from the 50s.
Wow. Impressive. Also, probably didn't get run by the marketing department.
Probably not. I think he was the marketing department, much like me.
Just like Sean.
Yep. And that Burlesque Sounds record is pretty fascinating too if you listen to clips of it. It's literally just he set up microphones in the back of a burlesque club in the 50s, so you're hearing both the audience and the music and like a little bit of like footsteps and things happening around. But yeah, he's had such a wide range of stuff that he was doing, pretty much whatever he wanted, regardless of any input from a normal label executive.
Are we going out on the B side, or do we have more to say when we come back?
I think we're going out.
We're going to go out. Okay, well, that concludes our Patreon for season 7 of I'd Buy That for $1. If you're hearing this, that means that you're a supporter of ours, and we can't thank you enough for continuing to help us with our little venture here. Keep this train on the tracks. Yeah.
Well done, Peter.
That was in the moment. We'll be back come the fall 2026. We will be taking August and September off from creating any new content for you, but we'll be back and we'll be freshened up and ready to go come this fall. So we thank you again. Tell other people about the great stuff we do over here on the Patreon. And anything else to say, fellas?
Choo choo, motherfucker.
Oh,
yes.
Choo choo, motherfucker.
Wow.
There, we've all said it now.
Wow. Well, I invite our Patreon listeners to close their eyes as they listen and imagine the three of us on the caboose just waving goodbye as we roll off into the sunset. But know that we'll be back.
Yes, it's not a farewell.
It's just see you later.
I'm co-host Peter Cook.
I'm co-host Jeremy.
And I'm co-host Sean Hartman.
I'm wearing a bow tie.